Good afternoon. Thank you, one and all. We're back here, I think, to discuss a book that has just been released and would be very, I think the conversation would be obviously, we've not read the book yet, but we would definitely get into some of the topics. I've read some of the articles written about it. So let's start with, the first aspect. We've been and this is something that I've mentioned a couple of times during my address, is on this idea of co-creation. Right? We say that how do we develop these applications? We are talking about AI for India, of course, India and beyond, making for India and beyond. And so, Professor Venkat, I think you worked with Professor C.K. Prahlad, the doyen of management thinking. And you proposed this idea way back in 2004, I believe. And so now you talk about co-intelligence in 2025, 20 years. So what does that really mean and how is this connected?
So first of all, thanks a lot for having me here. So thanks, Jay, and thanks to all of you. So actually, C.K. Prahlad was my mentor. And we coined this term co-creation. Actually, the book came out in 2004, but at the turn of the millennium, where, if you recall, we first had like this Web 1.0. And when the first version of the web came, I remember CK kind of, as he normally would, very thought-provoking asking me, I used to have a Palm Pilot in my pocket. He said, well, if you had something which was much smarter, and people could actually access this. Later on, we saw the iPhone, but it was just amplifying weak signals, as we call it. And he said, but let's say when like a billion people had, would management still be the same? You're coming at it from the perspective of value creation, or would it be fundamentally transformative? Now, that's a very heady question. But I think, as we discussed, one of the things that I think he was after was that companies have always thought of, over the last 100 years industrial revolution, companies have thought about value through the value chain, right? You build products and services, and that's how we think about value. And then, there's a demand side, at the other end, we exchange value through the goods and services. But for us, when we first saw the web, and suddenly consumers are getting informed, connected. So the question that we had on the table, so to speak, was, hey, companies are thinking about value one way, we think about technology, product, features, and so on. But consumers, in a way, have always thought about value in a very different way. Consumers think about, their needs, of course, but they also have aspirations, they have dreams, and they really start with their life experience. So you have consumers thinking from a life experience perspective, it's always been the case, but then through the industrial revolution, people had needed access to goods and services, so we built this, this industrial paradigm where we created goods and services. So the first thing that we basically poses is this disconnect, if you will, between how companies think about value and how consumers think. Is that getting exposed? Maybe pre-industrial revolution, people had that a more kind of life-centered view, but going through the industrial revolution, had this disconnect. And it's not just getting exposed. Will this, as technology advances, we coin this word experience technologies, saying that are we going to shift from products and services to experiences? Because we saw the web as an interactive medium. So that was the first point. The second one is that, so as this would happen, clearly there's some, there's a lot of work has gotten into how we create goods and services, but when you actually create an experience, if I were to create like a Jai experience, it's not like I can take it and manufacture the experience and give it to them. The experience is not like that, right? A Jai experience has to be co-created. So we said an experience, you think about it, theoretically, I can build products and services, but to create experiences, I must involve the experiencer. So that is essentially what we said. This may happen, that this will get amplified, and that therefore, since experiences must be co-created, because after all, your experience, and what's meaningful to you is meaningful to you. So how do I involve you based on your context and where you are and what you're trying to accomplish at a given moment in time? So that was the crux of the book, that an experience must be co-created. So that's one piece. And then the other side of it was, therefore, from the So therefore, from the company side, so in order to do this, we said that companies must actually therefore build a whole ecosystem of resources and capabilities that to create a personalized experience, it will probably involve stitching together multiple sets of things, so which no single company could do. So therefore, they have to collaborate and they have to work with different entities and partners. So it's not going to be this linear value chain. They will have to work in a network. And so the idea of an ecosystem was born. And then we have experience. So we said we are really going to this new world of like experience ecosystem, as we call it. But that was just like thinking at that point, and we said maybe this is kind of how the web will now drive the next generation of value creation. Then if you fast forward to 2011, you had the famous quote from Mark Anderson saying software is eating the world. So in our book, we actually said, because remember in 2000, not just the web, we also had Y2K, right? And so then we had a lot of Indian IT companies, of course, at that time, being very proficient in delivering software globally. We said this experiences I should say here will be powered by software, and that so as time went on, that in this ecosystem, it is how do you bring those software capabilities to really be able to provide platforms to people to create different kinds of experiences. So as the software ate the world, as we know, and then just to kind of connect to your question of co-intelligence. So in 2017, which was my sabbatical before last, I actually did it in Puranika, where I was part of another Nilakani's team, and actually Satish Babu was here. There he is. So he and I had lots of interactions, and of course that's also I've interacted with Manish BharatGen. I learned a lot. I was a student, and I learned that wow, there is a power of infrastructure. We talk about platforms, and of course they were building what we now call as DPIs, digital public infrastructure. I remember all the efforts in building up from BHIM to UPI and so on. So that was very fascinating to see how you could build infrastructure, not point solutions, which was kind of what people were doing prior to that, right? Apps and point solutions. So the idea of actually creating an infrastructure was very powerful. It said, oh, infrastructure is the missing link between these experiences in the ecosystem, because there are so many experiences here, and you have so many diversity of experiences. And so how do you manage all of that? So if you start from the infrastructure, and then you think about platforms in that way, and then you build applications, maybe that's a much powerful way. Now, of course, that was coming at it from the public perspective of digital public infrastructure. But simultaneously, people are also building, as you know, private infrastructure. So we coined the word shared digital infrastructure, which could be public or private. And now that was, the moment. So I had interacted with Krishnan during 2007 to 10, when I had actually had worked with Infosys, which wanted to kind of take these ideas of co-creation from the original book with C.K. Prahlad and say, hey, how do we build solutions with this mindset? And so during, just kind of post-COVID, we started engaging, and then suddenly there was the ChatGPT moment, November 30th, 2022. I remember very distinctly. And I was preparing for my next sabbatical, and I said, wow, it's the infrastructure, but now actually consumers can express how they think about value, because they can just talk in their natural language, and they don't need to understand computers and learn computer language. They can just speak in their natural language. So the language is human in that sense, right, about the life experiences, and the computer can understand it. So when I saw this power of generative AI, it was like, wow, this is going to completely transform how value gets created. But then the narrative, one of the narratives is that AI is going to replace us. So the narrative we propose in the book is, what if AI is here to co-create with us? And if we look at it that way, the glass is half full rather than half empty. It unlocks lots of opportunities, especially if you build on top of these infrastructures and you now start to think about AI and humans creating value together. But most important, where the experiencer can bring, Jaya experience, you can actually communicate what value means to you, and the AI system can understand you and process it, and agents can work in the background in this ecosystem to actually create that unique experience. So in some sense, co-intelligence actually turbocharges co-creation, right? Brings it to a whole new level. It actually makes it very viable, very feasible, and actually can elevate both the evolution of the system itself and our own human ingenuity, creativeness, aspirations in terms of creating better lives and livelihoods and kind of a better world for ourselves. From a humanity perspective, because we have subjective experiences of the world which AI doesn't. So that crux is the kind of history from co-creation to co-intelligence.
Wonderful. So I think you bring in, you did talk about this life experiences, and you say in the book something called life X-verse. Are they the same or is it different? What is this concept called the life X-verse?
I will hand it over to you.
Sure. So thanks Jay for inviting us for this book thing. Of course, for me, I guess I play a bit on the both sides of the equation here as a volunteer organizing this and also being here. So life X-verse, life X-verse and life experiences are very much connected. So let's give an example, right? Like in the book we talk about Jugalbandi. We start the book with the example of Jugalbandi. Okay, and Jugalbandi is a farmer who wants to know, right? Who wants to know what government schemes are applicable for me. That's an example of, and in a way they ask questions in natural language. They don't need to worry about.
Vivek, Raghavan is right there, who's responsible for
right. So we don't need. They don't need to know how technology works. It understands the language and solves their specific problem. That's one example of that life experience getting solved. Yeah, but the farmer, as part of this life X-verse, it's not just related to the scheme. The farmer will have other needs. So, for instance, the farmer may have a need where it says, "Look, you gave me the information, but I'd like you to fill the form." So now the AI system has to understand this, and which is where the next form, the agentic systems and so on that people have been talking about can take over, do the work for them, right? That fulfills another aspect of the life X-verse. But this is a farmer. This could well be a worker in a factory. There's a problem with the system in this moment, in the flow of this work. I now need to figure out a solution to this problem, right? And so maybe I just show my camera and the machine speaks to me. I can ask it questions or some other knowledge environment. So these are all aspects of that life X-verse, which is a sigma of the life experiences across these different kinds of physical, digital, multiple environments that these various experiences can exist. Yeah, that's the notion.
Wonderful. So I think I will now up the ante, right? So we are also saying that when we interact, you've looked at it from you started with the perspective that there is a system. I am earlier in the first phase, I am just putting things out. In the next phase, I am having the system, the people coming back into the system and interacting with it. So you are able to learn. But now the system itself can start changing because it is learning more as it progresses, right? We saw that with the game playing systems, like where they have these competitions between experts and the game is also learning in the process. So now, how does that work in this ecosystem or this co-intelligence perspective?
Great question. So let's take an example. We also discussed in the book. Take the example of a company called L'Oreal. Some of you may have heard of the company. It's a cosmetics, a beauty company, actually. One of the examples that we use in the book is that of L'Oreal Perso, which is personalized beauty. So he's talking about a farmer interacting, or it could be, their factory workers. So imagine you are a consumer, and so the way Perso works, let me just describe what that experience might be like, is that, you're looking to apply makeup, some foundation, or lipstick, or whatever it might be. They have lipstick and foundation as part of their skincare line. So you open the app, and it does a scan of your face, and it uses augmented virtual reality to actually superimpose anything that you choose. So first, you can have a conversation with it. So that's the first starting point. And it might make some recommendations. Say, okay, I want to try it on. So you can try on the lipstick. You can see if it matches with your dress. If you have certain specific clinical needs, like in terms of your skin, for instance, you have some spots or you're worried about some aspects of your skin, you can talk to it, and it basically tries to understand those things. So, for example, if you're applying foundation and you're using a certain lipstick, so there's a kind of look you're going for, right? There's a beauty ritual that you have. Now, the point is that you actually just talk in your natural language with it, right? It could be any language. Right now, there's obviously a certain set of languages, and of course, French is one of them. And what is very interesting here is that, like you said, the system kind of learns, and it will actually then produce the product for you. So you then hit the button, and in the personal system, it actually makes it for you. It's almost like having a personal factory at home, right? Now, this is obviously the high end. There are 37 brands that rolled it out across 2 of them. So when you apply it, this is important. It's not a one-time thing. You apply it, but then later on you can talk to it, and it'll ask you. It'll actually do reverse prompting. It'll ask you, what was your actual experience like? And then you can give it feedback, and it learns. And you might say, okay, I felt too dry on my skin or whatever. But it learns, and so let's say tomorrow now when you use it or your context changes, it is learning and it's going to adjust it for you, right? So then you can continue to use it that way. So if you actually look at it, this is very, very powerful. Now, what makes this work is that this underneath this sort of physical, under the hood, so to speak, is an AI factory, which is producing all these tokens, right, of intelligence. And what they have done is used all of that intelligence in this context. Now, of course, every time you're interacting, that's kind of where that intelligence is driving the value creation process between the system and you. So we use that example because L'Oreal has invested a lot in beauty science over the years, but now they can bring all of that knowledge that they have, and they have like over 1,000 dermatologists were involved in creating this, over 12 LLMs, etc. They're going all the technical detail, but they really work very hard because they know that if once they roll it out, it'll have a lot of brand impact, right? So you better get it right. So they've worked on it, and it's amazing, and it just completely transforms the experience that consumer has. That's just as an example. In terms of this Jugalbandi, which is a wonderful term because it really captures the essence of this co-intelligence. There's this back and forth where like the AI system is in the loop of my experience, and then I as a human am in the loop of the AI system trying to kind of teach it. So it's not just machine learning, it's machine teaching. I'm teaching it like my set of values, what I like, and the system is learning in a very personalized way.
So, in fact, I'll pick on one small piece that you said. There are a whole bunch of experts that have actually played in the role of actually creating this. So what does that mean for an enterprise now to start saying, okay, I will start using it? It's not just a product that they're putting out. It's not a platform, but it's an entire new way of thinking about engaging with your customer. So what does that mean?
So I will just mention a few things, and I'll have Krishnan chip in. So it's really an experience ecosystem. So going back to where I started, there's a whole bunch of capabilities that you need. But now, actually, if you take this idea, you can apply this kind of thinking anywhere in the value chain. So for instance, you go all the way into their R&D, they're actually now also, based on this, discovering new formulations because they have a lot of beauty science. So this knowledge and insight is also informing scientists in terms of their R&D. So we actually discuss how their R&D has been transformed in terms of now identifying. Now, this is a very high-end personalized system. They also have standard products. They have over 700 varieties. So, for example, L'Oreal India, they have a global capability center here. They have designed specific cartons for example, the Indian market and so on. But there, it is just matching you to what products exist on the shelf. It's not this personalized product. But still, it's huge value because a lot of consumers don't know which product to buy. So, there, it's informing their beauty science, and they're able to now bring, again, this kind of expertise into the scientific discovery process. Just like in pharma now, people are designing new molecules. Actually, AlphaFold, Nobel Prize winner service, right? So that's in terms of protein and folding. So actually, what we say is you're starting here. So here's the summary. It ripples across everywhere, ultimately all the way from the R&D to the development. But in each instance, there is a co-intelligence at work in terms of that interaction between, research scientists, or could be, a data scientist, or whoever, a developer interacting the system. So our focus is more on that interaction, and we can get back to this, as to how, therefore, like the development of software will change. Because software is eating the world. Jensen Huang has said, AI is eating software. What eats AI? And someone now at MIT is saying, it's the philosophy that we bring our values and culture to doing that. So there's a whole now parallel set of things we need to think about in terms of how software engineering might morph in terms of how you build that software architecture for this. But that's happy to come back to that.
Maybe I'll just add one point, which is like you said, of course, it impacts the entire organization. And that's the question we ask. Now, in this co-intelligence world, can you afford to be the same kind of organization that you were before if you have to create the fullest extent of value, right? And so so there are a number of characteristics we discuss in the book, but I just want to pose this question to the audience here. What do you think and we call this the co-intelligent enterprise, but what do you think is the one characteristic, okay, which you think is, the organization has to be, one characteristic of this organization that has to operate in this world? There are no right answers here, but what do you think? Any one? This is just to make sure that
It profitable.
Okay, if there are okay, that's one perspective, but not in the direction that you're looking at. Lean, dynamic is.
I think he's referring to the management system.
Okay.
The management system, yes. Well, for you to exist, you have to be profitable as an enterprise. But yeah, dynamic is one. Learning, yes, that's another very powerful this thing. So dynamic learning, these are all what we call as living systems organizations, right? We reference the human body itself. We are a living system. So can we think of an organization that is a living system that figures out it operates in an ecosystem. It doesn't exist in isolation, right? And so I think there are lots of changes, but let's just say living system is one example.
So let's take this analogy one step further, right? So everything you've said is great. We are going to get out of the door and we're going to start applying it. But like every living system, there is a risk. Like we could trip on the stair that's outside to catching some virus or something like that. So how do we deal with the risk in this case? What are the risks and how do we deal with it?
Absolutely, we have a whole chapter on that. But let me set it up and then I'll turn it over to Christian. So again, going back to the world we were in, it's very important. We controlled risk. In the whole value chain, to go back to the Japanese quality movement. The whole idea was, if I give you a product, not experience, product, I give you this product to you, and I give it to Vivek, let's say, you would expect the same product, right? So it is all about the quality of the product. This was the Japanese revolution of total quality management. Then same thing, product quality. Therefore, we have to control all the processes that output this product. Right? So we have mastered that, Six Sigma, right? Now comes the catch, because now once I move it, so I was just discussing this earlier with Gaurav actually, saying in this world, or the world we're in, variability, as they say in Japanese language, is the enemy, right? You have to reduce variability across the product. Now, in this world of now, so this still exists, but now when I come to create an experience, it's the exact opposite. Variability should be my friend, because what experience you want and what even you at a different point in time is very different. This is a huge challenge for companies that have produced products. So as you produce intelligence now and you're co-creating experiences, it's going to be a massive shift, going back to the question you posed in terms of the management systems, because all of a sudden I have to embrace this variability. So I dealt with a closed loop system. Now I have to be very comfortable with an open loop system, right? Which is very challenging for companies. So we give how companies are dealing with it. But I think that's a very important thing to recognize. And so, exactly like you said, risk is the other side of this coin. In other words, when you go here, you just increased all kinds of risk that before everything you were controlling. Of course, things like security, privacy, those are the obvious ones. But there are all kinds of new risks now, from brand risk, supply chain risk, all kinds of risks you're introducing in the system, which managers were carefully controlling, whether it's customer-facing activity, sales, marketing, service, or product, or supply chain. What we find is these companies are now, and L'Oreal, and then we also discuss the example of Siemens, so we take a business-to-business example. They are completely reimagining the entire management system. They're saying, this is a revolution, it's completely different. the enterprises were built was for the Henry Ford factory, where you built all these cars that came out. But now the car is intelligent and interacting in these ways. This is the future enterprise. So we're just kind of just getting started. And what we are just saying, positing, is that we have to build these core enterprises, where core intelligence has to be infused in every part of the system, and therefore governance and management of risk kind of go hand in hand. So that's the other jugalbandi you have to do, so to speak.
And I mean, so NIST, the BISC equivalent in the US, they have actually articulated 12 risks which are particularly accentuated by generative AI, right? And so I mean, there are people who are sort of categorizing these risks, but I just want to give one or two examples to illustrate and how this may be solved. For instance, the risk of disinformation. Now, in the book, we feature one Chinese EV company called NIO. Okay, now NIO, one of their strengths is that more than 50% of their sale came from people recommending their products, which is very good, right? But when some accident took place, suddenly you had one group of customers posting something online and saying this is the reason why this happened, and another group giving a completely different reason, and suddenly out there in the social media, not controlled by, to his point, it's not controlled by NIO. There is disinformation warfare happening. Okay, not by competitors, but by their own customers. And so how do you now put yourself into this situation, manage it? This is now a new risk.
We have many examples like this.
Yeah, so this is just one. Right.
Wonderful. So, in the interest of time, I think I'll open it up. I think there's one session where I think it would be good if we could have any questions from the audience. Huh? You have to co-create, yes. So, questions from the audience. I think anyone who has, I know it's hard to ask questions when they have not read the syllabus.
Actually, I have my good friend ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah, so please, I think any questions? Otherwise, I have one question that I can ask, but otherwise, open it up. Yes.
Can you introduce yourself before we ask?
Sure. I'm Shabir. I run a studio called Future Labs. We are working on bringing AI to the rural areas in the bottom 90%. In fact, my question is around that. Like, while we're talking about co-intelligence, when it comes to somebody who's educated, for them, they can leverage AI very easily. What are some thoughts you have on how do we really make those who have low literacy or no literacy, how do we make them leverage AI?
It's not about literacy, as I'm sure Vivek and Srinivas were talking earlier. It's about voice, right? They have a voice. They can express themselves. So for the first time now, we can capture their voices, right? It's very, very important. And that can drive the way in which you understand people. Even going back to the Japanese quality movement, the whole thing was the voice of the customer drives the product out. But truly you can get in their voice. You don't have to go and try to figure out what their voice is, do some market research and all of that. So I think this technology really can unlock whole new forms of value and ways in which we can actually make it more inclusive, which was one of the challenges posed to us earlier, right? So I think we're just getting started, but that means that we have to obviously now bring all this voice, and we had a lot of discussion in the first session, right, where Professor Ganesh also talked about how to actually bring all of this, learning through various kinds of, dialects and Indian languages. So I think that's the power of it, is that therefore people can just be where they are, right? It's like the AI has to, we're talking about technology discipline, but imagine the farmers in the field. I'm not suggesting the farmers should use some glasses or something because, or without a phone, but it has to be very natural where the farmer can just talk and the AI is learning and saying, there's something wrong here, right? And bring that intelligence in that moment, in that context. That's kind of where the value is going to get created. So from a tech stack point of view, we're saying it's at the top of the stack where all of the interaction is taking place. That's where the new forms of value get created.
So this is a follow-up question.
Hi, this is Suresh from Samati. So just following on that, so do you think that the voice is going to be the interface, especially when you come to the end users?
Yeah, so clearly voice is absolutely crucial, But we talk about multimodal. So what I'm saying is, it's not just, so the person can articulate in the voice, but the system with sensors is also observing, right? So there's also that observability of the AI, right? So it's that joint creation where I am speaking, but the system is also observing. By going back to my L'Oreal example, I might express myself, but the system is also knows kind of what's happening in my face, so to speak, right? So the system also has intelligence, and it might be able to scan the environment and be able to fuse that along with your voice. But all you're doing is just trying to be yourself.
Yeah, got it.
I just want to make one comment with respect to the previous question. I think it is a question which requires deep thought, as in there is research required. There is right now an intuitive feeling that co-intelligence is going to help with digital divide. Yeah, it's going to reduce digital divide. I mean, I feel that. Now, for example, I work closely in AI in education. Now, is it going to help people who are not literate, right? We saw two examples of how it's helping those folks gain the stuff. But exactly, will it help the person who, the bottom of the class, the middle of the class, the people who perform very well? How exactly will co-intelligence system help these people differently, right? I think we need more research to really understand how this technology is going to solve societal problem and whether it's going to help. I mean, it is. I think a number of PhD people are going to be having their hands full in the coming years solving this problem.
Just one quick remark. I talked about humans in the loop of AI, but AI also the loop of humans, right? So together, that's the human AI co-creation. So one quick comment I want to make is, if you were to ask me, I just walked in this morning, what's the color of the wall I passed by? I don't know. Anybody know? Or what was on your right-hand side? I think you might have gone to the registration desk. I don't know. I think you will fail that test. But if I was a humanoid robot, you can actually zoom in and look at the color. It may even tell you where the foot on the desk came from and all of that, right? So one of the things when I say philosophy is AI, one of the points we make in the book is, look, my intelligence I've been known with natural intelligence, that's the human intelligence. And we say this is a different kind of intelligence, just to be clear. We're not anthropomorphizing it. Our view is that this is a different kind of intelligence that's extremely useful. But the way a robot is perceiving the world, the modern robots, and the way I as a human perceive the world is very different. And what I bring with my creative capacities, and first of all, we created the AI systems. So what we're saying is, we need to bring our values and steer these systems in a way in which it is helpful for us humans, in terms of the lives we lead, right, and what we want to create, right, and making lives better, right. So we need it to work for humanity. So, but what we're also saying is philosophically that the systems are intelligent in their own way. And so going back to the question that was raised, so yes, I'm speaking in the local language. The system is perceiving this thing, which for me I don't know. So together with co-intelligence, we can actually co-create new forms of value, which maybe either system couldn't do alone. So I think that's the key point, and we're going to co-evolve with it, and so we will also have to enhance our creative capabilities, and maybe that's what it would do to us. And we also need to steer the system because we have subjective experience of the world which it doesn't have, and so that's the kind of I love the word jugalbandi, so thanks to Vivek, but that captures the spirit of this co-intelligence and co-evolution of this intelligence in creating value together. That's the co-creation we're talking about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think that's very
Thank you to our speakers for sharing those fascinating insights from the book. We all look forward to reading it. We now turn to a showcase of foundational AI innovation from India.
Okay, with that, we come to the last part of the section. So before I invite the presenters one by one, I want to talk about, just for a minute, this concept of co-intelligence. And what a wonderful concept that Professor Venkat and Krishnan have come up with. We used to, about 100 years ago, I think, people started talking about cooperation, right? Where cooperation was basically about bringing intent together. Then we started talking about collaboration, from intent to plans. And then there has been talk about co-creation in the last 15, 20 years, where you put efforts together. But for the first time, we are talking about bringing intelligence together, not only between humans and humans, but humans and machines as well, in the form of artificial intelligence. So, wonderful concept. And I think the more we think of it, the more we will understand the depth, how it can be applied. So we come to the final session, the showcase. We saw foundational models and what fabulous work. Again, congratulations to both the teams. The effort, the amount of effort it takes to build that against all the backdrop of having to raise so much capital and face all these kinds of criticisms in the market and do this kind of phenomenal work is absolutely stunning. So congratulations, Vivek and Team BharatGen. Now we come to the actual showcase of solutions. So we have a few startups. We had many more, but we couldn't accommodate everyone. We're going to show what they're actually doing with the AI solutions in their specific spaces. First, let me call Bhatta from Latlong. So they're doing very interesting work using geospatial data and how they're converting it into intelligent solutions. Bhatta, over to you.
Namaskar. We're talking about Indian philosophy and so on, which is at the heart of a lot of things many of us do. And one of the fundamental things which allows us to be able to figure out all transactions in life, it's called Vyavahara in Sanskrit, is Desha and Kala. Kala stands for time, Desha stands for location. So we try to do one of the two things, which is fundamental. Kala is extremely fundamental. At this point of time, I guess we can listen to Multani, but not necessarily Bhairav. Does it make sense? At this point of time, or at this location, we can do certain things. Where we live, where we work. If I were to tell you that I live in Jayanagar, you start drawing conclusions about what I most probably am worth. Right? But if I have to make it very specific and I say I don't live in that place, but if I say I live in Shobha Opal, you have a very good idea of how much money I should be earning or how much wealth I have if I have to be able to afford a place like that. So location fundamentally defines a lot of things in life. What I will do is I will talk about two things, where we are today as a company, Latlong. And as the name, hopefully, you would have guessed, latitude, longitude is essentially what the name of the company stands for. Talk about what we do today, and then very quickly what we are working on. So we offer two things on our platform. We offer location APIs. You will be familiar with one of the largest companies in the world doing map APIs, which is Google Maps. We offer most of it, and the theme of the morning till evening has been about affordability and about quality. And on both of those parameters, I think we do a pretty good job. We're significantly less expensive than practically any map API you can think of. And quality, we'll talk about it in a few seconds. So APIs we offer from any API you want from on the map side, we have it. We have maps for about 51 countries at this point of time. One of our largest customers who is sitting in front of it, it's on our website, is actually operational on our platform in about 45 countries. The other thing which we offer is an app called Anuga. As the name suggests, it's a follower. It's essentially an app for field operations. And one of the largest political consultancies in most probably the world, because we talked about scale in the morning, anything we do in India will most probably be one of the largest in the world. They have 6,000 plus field operations folks who use our app in order to be able to capture complex data questions across the country. And I talked about quality. About 2.5 years ago, thanks to Shashi, when Professor Abhay Karandikar was at IIT Kanpur, they did a study comparing our APIs with some of the most well-known APIs in the world. And we came out to be about 2x more accurate than Google Maps. It's a blog which has been published and so on. And one of the interesting things, and we spoke, the BharatGen and Sarvam folks were here. We were one of the first to use AI4 APIs, which was critical in the way we approach names of certain kinds of places. Jayanagar, J-I-N-A-G-A-R, Jayanagara, as we would spell it in Kannada, or people in Kannada would spell it. In English, all refers to the same place. How do we use Devanagari in order to be able to deal with it? And we used AI4 Bharat APIs in order to be able to convert practically all place names to Devanagari or Samskrita to be more precise, and then be able to do better matches than alone. So they validated, and we are 2x more accurate. At this point of time, we are almost 4x more accurate than Google Maps, because in 2.5 years we moved considerably further. More than 25 million points of interest on the platform. In the last 5 months, we have done about 160 million API calls. I mean, by the end of this month, we should be closer to 200 million API calls in this calendar year. The survey tool is very interesting because connectivity is a good challenge in India. How do you deal with it? We discovered, after working with these guys, that our platform is actually one of the most robust when it comes to how do you handle connectivity, what do you do with socket. Our CTO is here. If you have technical questions, I will defer it to him. I would not want to get into all the complexity with which we needed to deal with, simply because of the challenges of doing surveys in Sambalpur, in Odisha, or in Sagara, or Sissi in Karnataka. Fairly complex things to be able to deal with. So let me do a segue and talk about what are we trying to do here. That's where we are today. What we are trying to do now is we are sitting on about 7 TB of data at this point of time. We add roughly 200 to 250 GB of data practically every month to our database. We process almost another 5 to 6 TB of data every month, and of that we capture about 200 to 250 GB of data. What we're trying to do is essentially create a platform on top of Llama at this point of time. Nothing is frozen because we have no religion for technology, where we can answer various kinds of questions which are related to location. Let me make it a little simpler or let me make it a little obvious as we rush through. What is the genesis of what we're trying to do? We work with one of the largest political consultancies, as I said, and in last year we worked with them in about 4 state elections. We ended up geocoding close to 200 million voters, which is 220 crore voters in this country, which is roughly 1/5 of the number of voters in this country. That enabled them to have granular hyperlocal marketing. What do you do in 6 booths in, let's say, Kurukshetra is very different from what you want to do in 26 booths in Gurugram, because your target demographic is different. Similarly, the kind of Kannada you want to speak in communication in, let's say, Jayanagar is very different from the Kannada you want to use in Whitefield, because most probably the people in Whitefield are unlikely to know certain terms which are in the same language, right? So how do you super hyper localize? Because it's something which very few companies are doing today. How to use data which we have in order to be able to do this? And the proof of the pudding was significant vote share increase for the specific party in most of these places. Some of the places I've mentioned, Sona, Ladwa. Literally, you're focused on 6 to 7% votes, very hyper-local marketing, and results in almost a similar kind of vote share increase. And somebody like Shashi will appreciate what it means in terms of winning ratio in a non-wave election, which is what Haryana was. So let me show you a video.
Hey, I'm standing near Burma in Indiranagar. Can you help me find my complete address? Nice. Can you tell me more about the place? What is the average land price in Indiranagar 12th Main? Are there properties around me priced under 3 crores? What's the gender ratio in Indiranagar compared to Bangalore? How did people here vote in the last election? Are there any elder communities or senior citizens group where I can market my thela? Which areas in the city has highest concentration of gym goers?
So multiple different kinds of things which we are trying out. This is going to be live in a few days. What you are seeing was a little bit of edited, but really out of a live system from which most of the answers came out. All of the data is from our maps platform. That's what we are trying to do. Pivot on the location. One of the most interesting problems, which might be more fundamental, which we are trying to answer or try to deliver on, is move beyond this, which is to create a platform which can answer questions. All of us is very intuitive. If I see a map saying, some part of a map is contained within a certain larger polygon. Right? Maps are essentially geometries, lines, points, and polygons. But for a system, it's not very obvious to make that choice. How do I know that Chinagra is contained within Bangalore? So we're trying to create a platform, an AI-based platform, which can answer that question about geometries much more intuitively, because then I can pour up a massive amounts of data from images. Today we end up doing a lot of annotation to be able to do that kind of. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I will be happy to field any questions if you have.
No, I think we'll leave the questions offline. So next, thank you. We'll just have a photo. Next, can I invite Kshitij to talk about their Vision AI models at Paralaxiom?
Hi. So, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. So we've been working with AlEnsured AI4INDIA for quite some time. This is about Vision AI. This is about how we use data from images, particularly from CCTV cameras, in order to provide live monitoring AI agent. And this is in the context of factories, industries, automobile companies, which are trying to build safety first organizations. So three of us co-founders, all of us are IIT Bombay grads, have good amount of corporate experience as well with us when we started to build this out. We work with the entire ecosystem. We have not built this AI models in silos. We built with the ecosystems. We work with the NVIDIA Inception programs. On the other hand, we also work with all the camera vendors so that we can provide an end-to-end solution to the industry and actually fit into the entire part of it. We have a couple of US patents, India and US patents with us. We have startup recognition as well. We were winners of Elevate 2023. So what we have essentially built is an end-to-end system where just the surveillance isn't enough. Prevention is important. This is where our live CCTV agents with models at the core help our end customer. So the first part is you have built your entire premises, you have put CCTV intelligence over there, you have put the cameras, but there is somebody human who's sitting there and the human is losing concentration after some time. So as you can see, this, what you see on your right-hand side actually happens on a factory shop floor. Vehicles are moving, people are also moving, they're not paying attention with each other. So our live agents keep monitoring them, ensuring that they are viewing the scene and then providing information to the right set of people. So then there is people, the system would say there is a near miss. It would actually send a notification to the alarms, to PLC systems, just put it in the reports, take it to the higher management, tell where safety incidents are over there. So at the core, there is a deep learning system. But what is extremely important is this is an end-to-end system which is going to help the people on the ground who are not very technology aware, who understand factory environment, but they need help from AI. Okay. What we have done so far, we are about a 5.5-year-old company. We have built all of these different models, some of them from scratch, but we have collected data over last many years to the tune of over more than 10 to 15 terabytes of data is what we have. And this is the data in context. This is the data of people moving around the factory shop floors with hard hats, jackets, and other things. The context is extremely important. It's not just something that we have scraped out of Google or any other places. The accuracy comes in because this is in context data. So we are running about 250 locations globally. We have more than 10,000 cameras which are being monitored 24/7. And there are about 60 odd use cases that we have deployed. These are not AI models, 60 plus AI models. These are 60 plus AI use cases which make sense to our end customers. So person wearing a glove is a use case. Person wearing a hard hat is a use case. Why we are doing this is because we also need to communicate this to the entire fraternity of people who are not very much familiar with AI. And that's the part of our communication strategy as well. We have about, in the last 2 years, more than 1 million violations that we have captured all over our different customers that we have. The customers who are following this religiously have actually reduced the violations by almost 90%. And there are critical incidents that have been actually been prevented. During this journey, we are live and actually, right, we have moved on from the POC to the PO level in each of these companies, which is Tata Motors. We are live in Skoda Volkswagen, Mahindra, Mercedes-Benz. We have worked with EV companies like Pure EV in the past, ports, which is APM terminals, and each one of them. This is the important framework that we have put together along with AI. And this is what is important for our end customer in the factory setting. Everybody, when we talk about AI, we do talk about how it fits into the end customer. So this is how it fits in. At the bottom, you have essentially things like vehicle intrusion and no parking zones and things like that. So the lowest part of it is of less value. But as you keep going up, at the top, you have a major accident. At the top, if you actually have a person who's not moving for a certain period of time, you're detecting a person, but you're also detecting that a person is not moving for a certain period of time. Or if a person is in distress, if a person says, I'm in distress, goes in front of the camera. So these are the things that are important. Everything is important over here. It's just the value of each of these keeps going up as it is. So when we talk to our end customer, we say, okay, you put 10 rupees of violation here. That probably is about, your 50 lakh worth of accident. So that's the value that we essentially bring in. At the core, as I said, we have collected data over a period of last 6 years, and we create models. We have also worked with Alok and Shashi in order to collect data as a part of AI for India. That is common street data right now in Hyderabad and in Bangalore, where we are not just recognizing a person. We are recognizing a person wearing a dhoti, a woman in a burqa or a sari, which is not there as far as Western data sets or Western models are concerned. Auto rickshaws and thelas. So this data is important if you actually want to build a network for public safety. Okay. That's how our association with AI4INDIA was there as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kshitij. In fact, what's very interesting I see here is the fact that the focus is not so much on the models, but the applications.
Applications, yes.
And how nuanced the applications can be. And that's what we've been talking about the entire day. So that's where their effort comes in. Thank you very much. We'll just take a photo. Okay, next, can I have Omkar from Pienomial? They have built a very interesting solution from ground up specifically for research purposes, but with potential in every other application as well. Omkar.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much, Alok and Shashi for AI4INDIA. I have been here since the inception, and I have seen the growth that this organization has been, and I have seen the journey it has taken and the value that it has provided. So what we are talking about is enterprise intelligence, and a lot of things that I will be showing over here, they may seem counterintuitive, but the thing is that in enterprises it works because successful businesses are built on outliers. If it was more normal knowledge, then they wouldn't have been that particularly successful. So what we are doing is we are going beyond LLMs and we are trying to build the next future that will come in. So what we believe that signal is more important than the scale. So what you have is, if you go to NVIDIA's website, you will find that foundation models require a huge amount of data and huge amount of compute to train. Why do you need that? Because you need that to create, so that people can buy NVIDIA GPUs and they can sell more. So they are the ones who are making money in this gold rush. So signal is what we need to focus on, at least here in India. That is what we need. Second one, talent is much more important than compute. Of course, so my co-founder is a former professor at IIT Delhi. We started our first company in IIT Delhi. But most of the people that, who our employees, they do not come from IIT Delhi. They come from local colleges, and we train them rather than we start them with Rust. We start with them with, much more advanced frameworks so that they understand it very well. And, we can utilize that talent to, deliver a much bigger punch. Third one is product market fit is more, is more important than hype. A lot of startups, they will just develop the models. And after developing the models, what to do with them? If then, if the end consumer is not ready to buy them, there is no value for them. So how do you start with ground up, and how does that model to product journey happen? So enterprises are challenged with adopting AI solution, and around 88% of AI pilots, they fail to reach production. And again, a lot of that deals with traceability. A lot of that deals with consistency, accuracy, security with respect to data, the context that in which a particular answer has been given, a huge amount of assumptions need to be made, and the legal challenges associated with it. And in the end, the companies, they think that can I truly drive a bottom line benefits by scaling AI solution to production? And with that thought process, and you can see the stickers over there, Merck, AstraZeneca, Takeda, Johnson & Johnson, AbbVie, these are my customers. With them, we have deployed this solution successfully. And again, I'm not talking about, think globally and, act locally. I'm talking about think globally and act globally. So all of our customers, they are in US and EU, and extremely important is delivering accuracy, consistency, and traceability while maintaining the security. So how does that thought process happen? Number one, our inspirations for new approach have been completely different. So people generally think that you need large amount of compute, you need large amount of data. We started with scratch. We thought that if there is a dragonfly which survives, if you try to catch it, it will run away, it will find its food, it will make sure that it survives in the wilderness. It has just less than 1 million neurons. Then how does it work? How does it function? Second part, in 2019, Stockfish has been the biggest chess, most important, most powerful chess engine so far. But in 2019, Lila Zero was launched, and it was a huge neural network model that was built by DeepMind, and it beat Stockfish. And again, Stockfish people, they went back to drawing board. They built a very small intelligence model where the decision structure and the storage of knowledge, it was completely separated. And when it was completely separated, it has been unbeatable since, and Lila Zero and no other neural network has been able to beat it. So what that means, and also in businesses, as I mentioned, outliers are very important because the rules with which businesses are made, the heuristics that goes into making that decision is very important. For my case, the rules which will be required for brain cancer, the rules which will be required for non-small scale lung cancer, the rules which will be required for small scale lung cancer, they're all different. And if you show a breast cancer person the model which has been trained on non-small scale lung cancer, he's going to say this is not good, it doesn't work. And at that level, we have to deliver with 95% accuracy, and that is completely not doable with the current models that we have. So small is beautiful, but also accurate, traceable, and effective. So this is the kind of data that you get. So this is one PubMed abstract, and it takes around 10 to 15 minutes for a PhD biotech person to understand what that means and then deliver information out of it. You need to think about drugs, trial phases, population age, comparison, intervention, then return of ROA, the way your dosage is happening. So to make sure that all of that happens, we built a Satyaki AI, and Satyaki, the name is there because we believe that whatever we are delivering, it has to have traceability and it should be directly told. So there should not be any hallucination in the system itself. So it is a knowledge graph combining both data and models. And what you have heard so far is knowledge graph is where only data is stored. We are not storing data. Our tiny models, they are staying in the graph itself and delivering what we are looking for. So ontological entities, heuristics, their relationship is defined in every document. Tiny models are trained with ontology, minuscule memory and CPU consumption, and knowledge can be added at scale. Now, questions that you may have is how much data? How much data is required to train a model? What should be the model size? And what should be the compute requirements? So here is a toy model which is trained on a single Wikipedia article. The model size is 3.8 million parameters and it is running on the Raspberry Pi. So let me show you how it works. Oh, somehow it is not working, but I have a backup video. Thankfully, I came prepared. Hopefully it works. Oh, it's here. Okay. Okay. So again, I'll just pause the video and I'll show you what I'm doing over here. Number one, here. Okay. So we just pinged to 8888. We want to make sure that we are completely offline. And you can see this is running on a Raspberry Pi, but it is completely offline on wireless. And when we ping to Google, it is completely air gapped. So network is completely not reachable. Number two, we ran neo fetch command. So it is a Raspberry Pi, and you can see the memory configurations. So memory configurations wise, the memory is 652 MB, and it is 8 GB max. Now, when we run the model, look at this particular memory bar. The question that we are asking that what was India's nominal GDP? And again, the model has been trained on a single Wikipedia article. What is India's nominal GDP in 2024 according to IMF? The model is being loaded, and look at the memory bar over here. The total memory consumed by this particular model will not surpass 1.7 GB. And we are still thinking, and again, premature optimization is root of all evil. We believe that we can reduce it to 200 MB, so that completely taking out the amount of time that is required, the amount of memory that is required. And you get the answer that, according to International Monetary Fund, you take this particular answer, go back to Wikipedia, you'll find the reference to this particular answer. Now, I asked the same question. Once I ask the same question, again, it will go into memory consumption loop, and you will get the same answer once again. So what we have provided is traceability. What we have provided is direct repetition, that is the consistency. And what we have provided is extremely low compute that will deliver the output that our clients are looking for. Now, while all of that, and again, it's around 4 million parameter model. So again, with all of this in mind, how does all of this play out? So just give me 1 minute, sorry. Yes, it's on edge. Yes. Now, again, let me just open the slideshow. How do I open? No, so how do I share the slide? How do I open the slideshow? It's disabled somehow. Well, I'll just go to presentation. I hope presentation is there. Sorry, I have to switch between multiple things. It's decks in here. So apologies, a little bit slight technical glitch. Yeah, I can't slide share. So there is slight text over there. Okay, good. So it has opened up. So what is the technology that is going in? So we believe, and we believe that yes. Okay, the token-based prediction, it doesn't work. The reason token-based prediction doesn't work is, think about, there is a town that needs to be taken over by a mob of 10,000 people. When you are sending those 10,000 people on that particular village, the amount of communication that will be required between all of these 10,000 people will be huge. But modern armies are based on hierarchy of soldiers. Then you have their captains, you have their majors, their brigadiers, their generals, and it creates the communication efficiency. Because of that, the total size, the communication that is required, it completely reduces. So prediction unit, it could be sentences, paragraphs, it could be entity, all of that. And again, it's a proprietary, so we started from scratch. Architecture, generally, most of the models are decode only because they work on token level. But as soon as you move out of the token level, that stops working. So the model that we have built, that is also proprietary. Cross entropy is the loss function, again, proprietary loss function. Everything has been patented. And compute, so you need tens of thousands of GPUs to train those models. We are training, like this model particularly you saw, it took around 3 hours to train on a single 820G. That cost around $300 per month. So with that, and you will need for training samples trillions of tokens. Here you can just use 400 data points to start with. And we are semi-finalists in US Army's AI intelligence competition. And they just gave us 40 data points. That was poison data, and we had to train our model. The model saves us 500 kilobytes, and we were still able to deliver. Now, with that, these are the patents that we have filed. And again, not all of the patents. These are around 6 patents. There are 3 more that we filed in last month, and 2 of them have been allowed so far. But with all of that, where do we get? It doesn't mean anything if you have just created a model and just kept it somewhere. It needs to be integrated with the product. So for pharma clients, starting from taking all of that data, inserting into our system, creating tracking and alerts, making sure that these pharma clients, when they go to conferences, they can take pictures of the different papers which are being published, the conferences which are published, then creating that information so that the answers which are given, they have direct traceability. to taking their private data, making sure that all the presentations that they are processing, all of them they are converted into interactable knowledge. All of that has been built into a single product. So the value that we deliver to a customer is that when a particular pharma product, for an example, there is a drug that gets approved finally into the market, that is where their product market fit loop starts. They have to and then conduct multiple clinical trials to deliver the value to a particular demographic. So currently, suppose a breast cancer drug has been approved for female, but the same breast cancer drug could be approved for male population if you are able to conduct those studies. But where do you make the most of the money? And at the same time, while you're making most of the money, when you approach different countries, for an example, a US drug needs to be approved in UK demographics, what kind of demographics they should go with, all of that value pricing that goes into it. And all of this intelligence that we have shown so far, it delivers on that particular promise. That's why our clients trust us. So again, we are Pienomial, we are based in Pune. If you want to try these models on our Raspberry Pi devices, you're welcome to visit us in Pune. We have brilliant Mr. And we have, we can have a coffee and we can chat while looking into those models. So that is us, by the way. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Omkar. So here is an example of them looking at the problem first, which is high levels of accuracy required in research, and then changing the whole approach to building the model, the final solution which they're doing. And as a consequence, they're also able to make it extremely small and very low cost, therefore. So we'll take one picture. Okay, now Satish, are you here from us studio? Yes. So they're doing some interesting work. They have built a solution for lawyers, for the legal industry, people who are interested in law and court judgments, etc., called Ask Junior. So over to you, Satish.
Yeah.
Renu, unfortunately, was feeling unwell this morning. She couldn't come. She's the CEO. So Satish is the CTO.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I know I'm the last speaker, so sorry to keep you waiting. I'll start quick and finish it fast. Hopefully, keep you engaged also. So let me start with a simple premise. Justice is not just for lawyers. The systems which you are building is not just for lawyers or judges. We are building it for we're building tools which can be used across ecosystem. That means like starts with citizens. So we are working with the ecosystem of lawyers, where we can actually take the workflows which are currently happening in courts, judges, lawyers, and see what the AI can actually bring in. And basically, in this case, the AI is not a luxury. It's a need. Basically, I mean, everybody knows like there's considerable amount of time spent on the system. So we need AI to do it. And Ask Junior is not the only system which we need. There are hundreds of companies who are working on this space, trying to see like how we can actually reduce the time to do it. And luckily, like we got enough attraction and then like enough customers to do it. And we are working with the High Court of Karnataka and High Court of Delhi. And they open source a lot of things for us. And then like where we were able to build this legal workflows and enable it to lawyers as well as courts. Now, recently we started working with a lot of NGOs or the CSOs, they call themselves, and which basically right now all our Ask Junior system is deployed in the hands of citizen. We have built like around 11 systems, which even from a basic RTA workflow, how do you generate RTA? How do you generate a legal notice? Or how do you actually go and talk to courts actually? Do you even need to go to court? So those kind of things, like we have built it and delivered it to the citizen. And I hope this video works. Okay, sorry, that video doesn't work, but it shows that like we have built a system which allows you to actually create a solution for a document review project, which is very simple to say, but again, like the amount of citation which is required for lawyers to actually go into the system and say, this is working, this is useful for me. And also for every process, we call something called as a lawyer in a loop rather than a human in a loop. Like let's say a legal workflow takes 10 steps to do it. And we start with the first step. Obviously, AI can actually generate a legal notice. You would have used ChatGPT to do it. Like that's easy. But what is needed in that whole loop is can a lawyer see that and say it is useful? So that is very important. And traditional law firm don't have time for RTAs. So we stand in between them. Like we are not ChatGPT. We are a lawyer in the loop company and we are not a traditional law firm. We can be delivering this services faster. And another thing which we also have done is like we just don't do the legal workflows only for us. Like we also open sourced it. We have open sourced almost 17 workflows of legal, and then like we also made sure like all the data is PII removed, and it's available for anyone to do, because like we worked for 2 years to collect this data, and then like we worked with many lawyers, many judges, and to do this. And now this same thing like another legal tech company should not go through. So what we have done is like we have made this open evaluation framework available. This also raises the trust for us. Like when we go and say like, how do you know some summary is good? How do you know something is, let's say like a redaction is good? Or like how are you classifying some legal cases as X and Y? So we have a solution like where we have shows the data to them. And in turn, like we show them like, okay, like this is possible and this is how we have done it. And almost all these are prompts, and like we are model agnostic, which means like we try every model. Like for some of the cases we have used Sarvam, some of the cases we have used Claude and everything. And it's deployed in the cloud environment. And it's available for, I mean, like some of the prompts are even available for anyone to use it actually. And it is designed for legal systems, which means like it comes with enough challenges. So we have a multilingual scan document, noisy files. I mean, like one of the examples what we have is like when we worked with the Karnataka government, they open source, they literally told, okay, take our archive and then like build tools on it, right? But the archive is not usable for anyone. It is first scanned. It is literally the bad scanned copies which you have. And then like, this is not like a very old file. I'm talking about a file which is like done like 1 year back. Even there, like you can find some of the copies are like taken in a photo, cameras, like all the evidences are taken in a camera and then they will put it in. So we have built a model, or like we have built continuation of model where we will be able to do it. And our long-term mission is like we wanted to build a infrastructure layer for justice system. Thankfully, there is a lot of people collaborating with us in doing it. Like, one of the system is like we have Agami, we have Outlawed, like we have a good ecosystem of vendors who are collaborating in making this happen. And so, thank you. That's me.
That was very quick, Satish. Thank you. So this is very interesting, where it's an example of actual solution which is of use to a certain community. In this case, lawyers and people interested in judgments, and they actually publish a daily summary of all the judgments of the day through their solutions. So it's something which is already functional and out there. Finally, let me invite Srinivas. So Srinivas is doing some very interesting work. While we have been talking about AI solutions all day, but how do we trust these AI solutions? And they have created a framework by which you can actually test your AI models and ensure that the trustworthiness is high. So I will hand it over to Srinivas to talk about it.
Thank you. I think I'm standing between you and T probably. But the one I'm talking about is probably the glue between what we call as pilot to production. AI be considered as good versus AI considered as evil. So the layer I'm building is what I'm calling as the trust layer for AI. But my approach is very much like a traditional IT person would think. The traditional IT person always thinks that trust cannot come at the end. It has to be through the life cycle, right? So that means when you're building systems, you should have an approach to making sure that you have dipsticks in the life cycle, right? From data collection to data cleaning, to building the models, to deploying the models. And not only that, one thing which we realized with some of our customers is post-deployment, tested well, good accuracy, certified for fairness, certified for, good performance. But 3 months down the lane, complaints started that it is behaving unfairly. So that is the real problem with AI. The data at inference is not necessarily in sync with data on which it has been trained. So that means the performance metrics you talk about during your training and your deployment may go through what is called as concept drift or decay. And that is one of the big problems we are trying to solve. And all of this, I'd say, is basically solving the problem of what I call as AI with thorns. So when I say AI with thorns, there are two elements that come in. One is, do you deploy systems without adequate testing and let users give you feedback? Or you make sure that testing is done as part of the process before you go and deploy? I think the latter is what is followed in the IT industry. But unfortunately, in the AI world, in the rush to deploy models, this has been given a short change. As a result of which, we have accidents which have been showing that incomplete, opaque, biased, and insecure AI implementations are put into production. And so to overcome that, we have this concept, which is two approaches to solve this. One is de jure, which is countries across the world are coming up to regulate and saying, can we enforce the requirements from society, requirements from end user, requirement from sane use of AI? Second thing is de facto, where the developers themselves, let's say Sarvam or some people, they take into account the quality during the process perspective, and they put testing as a part of this so that they have responsible AI principles during the development process. So what does responsible AI mean? It means that, okay, while we know that there is an AI-based use case which is requiring a good amount of work on the data, but the focus is not just on accuracy. I'm tired of listening to accuracy. Every 99.9% of the research papers, every benchmark talks about accuracy. But what about explainability, transparency? Will you give a surgeon saying that he's 99.9% accurate surgical arm, I will let him operate my brain? I should have some transparency as to why it is behaving the way it is behaving. Same thing, will I trust my high net worth so-called portfolio to an AI engine saying that it has been tested for 99.9% increase to not cause you loss? Will I give it? I need some transparency. Then you need fairness. You cannot assume that a system which is given to AI can take a approach that whatever is given as the data was biased, so I'll give a biased behavior. Not acceptable. Model privacy. This is again one thing I want to educate. There's a lot of laws, a lot of talk about GDPR, data privacy. But let me tell you, the gap is model privacy and data privacy. There's so much you can leak in an image which is conformant to GDPR, but you still leak your Aadhaar as an image into your AI training process. Your field of Aadhaar number is pseudonymized. Fine. But what about if you have taken and ingested an Aadhaar image? So that is what we're talking about. AI privacy is not same as data privacy. There's a layer above privacy. And last but not the least, today we have scenarios where a very, very simple hack can be done by simply fooling your AI model into tricking that you are a genuine employee of the company and be allowed into it. It is very simple, adding a couple of pixel filters on top of a simple face of yourself. So that is what I'm talking about. AI is just sitting underbelly for safety attacks. So what we need is a coverage-driven AI testing tool which can test AI models for transparency, security, safety, privacy, bias, and last but not the least, data adequacy. So I'm sure there's a lot of work going on with even AI4INDIA with data. Sufficient data lack is not an excuse for bringing out a good model. You should have enough material for which you can create maybe synthetic data to overcome the problem. So I think the gap between a trusted AI implementation and the AI implementation process as is what we are filling the gap. And this is something which is interesting because across clients, what we've seen is once we have given a dashboard of where they're faring on fairness, security, coverage, reliability, and we also given them ways to improve. For example, we created as an ethical hack vector the actual hack images on which they can be adversarially retrained and their model will be robust to these hack attacks. Or we can talk about creating augmented corner case scenarios on which potential accident could have happened. And now you retrain with that, they'll be more robust with that. So for example, let me tell you, recently we signed up a partnership with ISRO, where they're looking at improving the recognition accuracy of the satellite imaging to go from a certain level of accuracy to the higher level because the fine-grained corner cases, which they were not able to were able to crack with that. So I hope to help improve the accuracy of satellite image recognition systems by recognizing those generated corner cases, which can help in remediating the model in process, increasing the accuracy. So what does it mean? It means for different kinds of data, different kinds of tests. It does not mean that whatever is coming from an LLM is to be trusted. Believe me, when we're trying to start talking about evaluating, so-called LLMs, we found them wanting on prompt injection attacks. They are sitting underbelly for people who can just steal the entire training data by sending it privacy attack inference prompts. So we are doing prompt injection testing. We're doing LLM bias testing. The kind of biases you will not believe. Go to Midjourney and ask, give me images of successful entrepreneurs. It'll be showing all people with suits. But in Silicon Valley, nobody wears suits. Does it mean a successful entrepreneur also needs to be a suit-wearing person? I'm not even going to other dimensions, which are very difficult. In fact, when we're talking about global data sets and looking at bias, we are working very closely with IIT Kharagpur for Indo-German collaboration. We found that the data sets are adequately lacking on Indian social dimensions of discrimination, like caste. Believe me, we need to develop a data-driven approach to handling bias. And it's a big problem if tomorrow we have really successful AI models which are continually discriminating even worse than what is existing in the society. That's the challenge. So across areas of AI, right, from image to structured data to object detection to LLMs, we have developed an end-to-end suite. And the beauty of this is across different use cases. For example, in some case, it's about documents extraction knowledge base. That's what we're doing a POC for railways. For the ISRO, it was about image quality, improving image quality. But across all of this, our goal is very simple. Can we improve the quality of AI by testing, finding faults, and improving it as a continuous testing and improvement process? As a part of it, what we also want to tell you is that this is exactly the path governments across the globe are now coming. Indian government is yet to come up with a regulation, but European Union Act is already out in the public. It is mandating all AI systems to be audited on dimensions of transparency, privacy, security, and fairness, and given a dashboard. Where does it stand? So that you know the gaps before you'll be fined. One non-compliance is 42,000 euros or 7% of your annual revenue. So think about either you're going to use a testing tool like AlEnsured to prevent non-compliance or let life be as usual. That's where I stop and rest my case. And thank you. I hope to improve the AI ecosystem overall by bringing testing as a culture among AI. Data scientists are the last people who can convince them to introspect on anything they believe is correct. So let's change the culture. Build a test-first approach to AI rather than do anything and let end users be the sufferers. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivas. That was very interesting. I think we all realize the importance of AI system being trustworthy and be responsible. And it's therefore good to test, because if you release something which is not, it gets exposed very quickly, right? Within 24 hours, people push back and say, these are the things which are wrong. So invest in Srinivas, invest in testing, and you'll have a more responsible model. Thanks. So this was just a snapshot of the kind of AI first solutions coming out of India. We're getting foundational models, we are getting great applications and so on. And there are many more. We looked at lots of them. So I think it fills us all with a lot of inspiration and hope that we are going to do extremely well in this space, and there is lots more to follow. With that, I want to invite Shashi and Ramanan for a last closing mention and to talk about something new.
Thanks, Alok, and thanks to everyone for coming, joining us today and enduring what it has been a marathon, 8 hours, almost 7 hours. So I think the CSTEP team has been longer. Rajesh and his entire team, I think, a fantastic effort in organizing. Reason we thought we'll just take a minute before we wind up is there has been a talk about, do we need an industry body, a NASSCOM-like body for AI? I think that's something that we wanted to probe everyone on, get your feedback, get your thoughts on this. Some weeks back, Chris Gopalakrishnan and another such event had spoken about, the need for such a body. Ramanan and his team have been working on putting together a framework for what such a body should look like, who should it represent, who are the stakeholders, and so on. So, Raghavan, if you want to just briefly talk about it.
So, this the अभी तक जो हमने बात किया है वो थोड़ा सा जो डिस्कशन है थोड़ा सा एब्स्ट्रैक्ट है because people will say कि we have a lot of industrial body and already we are represented by other institution, so whether we need a specific body for AI or not. So इसके कई सारे क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर हैं जो हमने कुछ कोशिश की है कि हम उनको कुछ एड्रेस करें. मैं एक छोटा सा इंट्रोडक्शन पढ़ता हूँ कि दिस इंडस्ट्री बॉडी इज बीइंग सेट अप टू हेल्प India become a global leader in the use of artificial intelligence and other new technologies. The goal is to make sure that AI is not just for a few big companies or cities, but something that can help people, business, and communities across the country. It will try to also bring together who build AI like startups and tech companies and those who use it. So it will be just like an interface platform to work on real world problems. It will also act as a bridge to policymakers, making sure that rules and regulations support innovation, inclusion, and public trust. The basic idea इसका ये है कि to use technology for public good. और अभी तक जो हमने सोचा है कि इसके 4 में भी मैकेनिज्म हो सकते हैं, alignment, access, authenticity, and advocacy. एक आइडिया है जो अभी हम इसको कर रहे हैं, मतलब इसको कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इस पर और डिस्कशन करें. एक बहुत ही आई विल से कि बहुत ही इनिशियल स्टेज में है, बट आई थिंक जैसे जैसे ये कम्युनिटी विल ग्रो और कम्युनिटी में उसके कंसर्न भी बढ़ेंगे और अपॉर्चुनिटीज भी बढ़ेंगी, हमें एक प्लेटफॉर्म जरूर चाहिए होगा जो प्लेटफॉर्म बहुत सारे कंसर्न और इश्यूज को एड्रेस कर सके. बट अभी भी कई सारे जो हैं बहुत सारे लूज नेटवर्क हैं हमारे, और लूज नेटवर्क के थ्रू बहुत सारे इश्यूज नहीं एड्रेस हो सकते हैं. स्पेशली अगर इंडस्ट्री की एआई इंडस्ट्री की कुछ रिक्वायरमेंट है, वी हैव टू डायरेक्टली एक पर्टिकुलर कंपनी डायरेक्टली नहीं इंटरवीन कर सकती है इंडस्ट्री या पॉलिसी को लेकर के. सो फॉर दैट वी नीड सम काइंड ऑफ प्लेटफॉर्म. एट द सेम टाइम पीपल कैन से कि अगर कुछ और भी जो लोग हैं जो इस सेक्टर में हैं, उनके भी इंटरेस्ट ओवर द टाइम काफी वो हो गए, डाइवर्स हो गए. सो फॉर एआई कम्युनिटी के लिए एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म होना चाहिए, ये ऐसा हम लोग सोच रहे हैं. यस, हाँ, थैंक यू. सो अभी ये विजन है, कुछ मैसेज सर और बाद में देंगे.
Right, that, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, everyone. As we draw the AI for India Summit 2025 to a close, I now invite Mr. Rajesh Shenoy, Sector Head, AI and Digital Platforms at CSTEP, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of AI4INDIA and CSTEP. It's been a long day. There's a lot to process. I'm sure we'll take our time to do that. But one key takeaway that I see is clearly that we all need to engage and participate in the AI ecosystem in order to co-invent, co-create, and co-build. Rishi Bal mentioned this. I found that that's to be a key takeaway. To all our speakers, panelists, and our excellent moderators, Shashi, Alok, and Jay, I think a big thank you to you for sharing your time and insights here. Particularly to our moderators, you've been instrumental in curating this event and then making sure that the right amount of attention goes to the key issues and challenges and the opportunities that we have in front of us. I also want to, all attendees here, I think there's a lot. I'm sure we all have a lot of ideas that we want to pursue, and I hope we can do that, engaging with the ecosystem. To the ISF team, Ms. Bhavna, Mehra, Shruti, and Mahesh and Madan, we couldn't have asked for a more beautiful and welcoming space here. Thank you very much. And finally, to my colleagues at CSTEP,
I think a big thank you. Grateful. I'm very grateful for the entire effort that you have put in today to make this successful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajesh. And with that, we come to the close of today's formal sessions, but not the conversations. We invite you to join us for tea on the first floor, connect with fellow participants and speakers, and explore new ideas and collaborations. Before you leave, please collect your token of appreciation and return your lanyards at the registration desk. Thank you for being a part of the AI for India Summit 2025. We look forward to continuing this journey together.